Crack us the code of sales enablement. You can take over.
Yeah, thank you. Everybody can hear me, or it's okay? So I feel like the title is a little bit ambitious, right? So it's I feel a little bit of pressure from given the question that we had this morning around the roundtable. So anyway, let me first by introducing this topic of sales enablement. I will present myself, my company, what I'm doing, so you get a sense of what kind of tips I can provide to you. So before we start, wanted to describe me in 4 kind of dimensions. The first one is a father, 2 boys living in Paris. I mean, Meudon is close to Paris. Photograph, something which is really important, by the way, in my product marketing life is like I'm a visual thinker and designer as well. So each time I'm building a story, I'm thinking visually. So not writing things, but visually in slides, in decks, in support, and so on. That's really helpful. I'm doing stupid things, like spending many hours doing running to death in competitions like triathlon, which is like a nightmare. Definitely not a record breaker, so don't expect me to be on the finish line very soon, very early in the competitions. And I'm a marketer, so I spend time as a product marketer. Data systems, Microsoft, Wiley, Talent, and now Dataiku. So mostly in the B2B space, in the data and AI space, in software space. Being product manager in subsidiary in large organizations, global roles, regional, whatever. And one thing that my kids wanted to notice is that they don't look like this anymore. So they look like this now. So they don't want me, Dad, please change the pictures. That's how he looks like today. About my company. So does anybody know what an haiku means? Raise your hands if you know what an haiku means. So an haiku in Japanese culture means poetry. So it's a simple poetry, simple poem, and 3 lines. And basically what that haiku is providing in simple poems to people like data engineer, data scientists, or data analysts, just so that they can really being empowered with anything around machine learning, models, AI, but a simple way. So we make really complex things simple. That's the philosophy of Dataiku. So global company, more than 1,500 people, so across all countries. Of course, we're hiring a lot of times. I think that's it for the company side. I won't focus specifically on Dataiku, but I will share some expertise and recommendation from my own experience and some that I learned at Dataiku as well. So agenda is really to understand the kind of challenge that we are all facing with sales enablement as product marketers, and there are different kind of situations. Humble recommendations, so no really low state of the law, I would say, recommendations, but just really humble. And how can you give you some tips so to help you to make the difference? And if you want, of course, don't hesitate to use Slido for questions, spend time on answering them, and we can continue for the lunch. Let's start with the challenge. So the reality is that the road to successful sales enablement is a tricky one. When I start, I was thinking that sales enablement was looking like this. So straightforward, very shiny. It's a product roadmap, the product will happen, it will be released. Everybody will be happy about the product. Everybody will be eager to sell the product. Done. Job's done. Very easy. Sales development is probably the best thing that a product marketer should do. Reality, it's a bit more complex. There's a lot of curves. The road is not really polished. It's not very clean. So what does it mean? If you want to picture the journey of a sales rep, so wanted to picture the journey of a sales rep, this is how you wish it to look like. So you will start with having the sales rep eager to look at the next content about the platforms, about the new product innovation that is about to be launched. Then he's in a train, he's really eager to look at this, he's using his laptop and iPad before the meeting with the customers. And he continued to do that all the day. And at the end, of course, when he go back and meet with his family, he continue doing offline exercise to learn more about the products. Yeah, of course, we all want the sales to be like this. The reality is that they are not looking like this. And the reality is mostly like this. So this is very interesting one. It's one very, very old study from Bersin by Deloitte, which is an HR company, which really try to map the time it takes, how much time sales reps or learner in a company, so it was mostly for any kind of employee, have into their daily life and daily work week. So this is one thing which is important, is these figures on the middle, the 1% of a typical work weeks. So I try to do some math and calculating what does it mean 1% of work week for a sales rep, 24 minutes. So imagine that, as we have seen this morning, you are at Cisco or your Microsoft, you have an account exec just selling 200 products. What does it mean in reality? So let's imagine you cut by 3, so it would be like 8 minutes. And keep in mind, this study was 2014. So I cannot imagine how it looks like today. And the reality is that you're here. You're on this wonderful world, so it's really fraught with pitfalls again. But you're not really in a good engine. So you're really not a really nice car. And sometimes behind you, like here on the ground floor, you have Sales Enablement Summit happening. You can have sales enablement as well. So they're partnering with you. Sometimes they're not in the same car. They are belonging to the sales organizations, to training organizations. That's not the same kind of metrics, objectives. And you are product marketing, you're going straight on the road. And of course, you are likely to fail. What you need, what we would like to expect is really to make sure that you partner with sales enablement. So if you are new and if your company is small, there won't be any sales enablement in your organization. So then partner with people which are sales-minded, who have the most, I would say, the most skilled champion in your organizations. Because you need to change your cars, you need to drive the same cars to a muscle car to win this kind of competition. Behind you, you have your competitors, of course. And what you will deliver on sales enablement is really will make the difference. Makes the difference versus competitors. And sometimes it's a matter of weeks, even in the B2B world. And that's why something like tips that I didn't put into the presentation, just observe what your competitors are doing, including on the sales enablement side. So basically, if I want to visualize it, I would say that both have to drive on 2 dimensions to really shift from the support kind of things to being a business catalyst. You can start with the features, talking about the product, how great is my product, but you don't have any way to, you feel that there is no will to learn, that the sales rep won't be really eager to sell. They prefer to stay on their own messaging and sales conversations that they know already, and they can be low skilled. So then you need to change your muscle, you need to change your cars so that you can go from physical to, I would say, hybrid learning or phygital here, so that you can transform your sales into not just somebody who is informed about the product, who gave a product sheet to a customer. Sometimes it happens. So if you go to do the experience and go to the showroom at the ground floor and go to Shopad and go to these guys and you start sharing conversation with them and see how they react about selling your product. And then transform them so that they can be ready to sell, but really being engaged. So the skill is really important for me. Make sure that they know about the product, about the value about the product, more than just the features, but also they are eager and feel engaged for that. So 2 dimensions here, and I think really important is skill, wills, and I had another one which is tech, because technology being like a platform is something which is important. Definitely not something that you need to, it's a must-have, but it's not enough. I will explain you why in a minute. So for me, I would say there are, 5 tips to shift from product support to a business catalyst. So I want you to have a picture from a Formula 1 racing, but I think that this one is for 24 hours of Le Mans, which is more representative of the course of the product marketing journey, because it's a 24 hours racing. So which means that the Bugatti circuit, you have to practice hundreds of times. And it's basically the same work that a product marketing will do. It's not just a 1 hour or 2 hour racing. It's really a long race where you will partner, you won't be alone in the car, you will be with the sales enablement. And believe me, the competition is quite hard. The first one, I would say as an advice, would be to say, I would say, defeat inertia and set your goals. What does it mean? It means that perhaps you just enter a company, you don't know, it happens to me, that somebody has been hired like 2-3 years ago and was in charge of product marketing or sales enablement. They may have done great things. And these great things may be hidden in the company. So there are sometimes some hidden gems into companies, like legacy or things. So you have like a sporty car hidden somewhere in the company. So you need to make sure that you don't start from scratch. You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes while we are starting in a positions, we want to start from scratch, from zero, but there have been some great content that can have been delivered and that resonates. So it's always good to capitalize on this kind of content. But also it's time for you to listen and to understand, to assess your team skills, to spend time at the coffee machine. So it's not anymore and not only into the process, it's really about sharing empathy, spending time with people, understanding what their problem. And sometimes with sales reps, it's easier in a formal conversations to learn more than just having in a sales session or enablement session and ask them for Q&A. So I think the informal part is really important. One thing which is important as well is setting your goals. Why setting your goals? Because you want to prove that you had some value. So if you don't set your goals from the beginning, it's likely that you will fail because you don't have a way to measure the progress and achievement that you have done. It's also a way to be representative in OKR, as an example. So an example at Dataiku, we are following the content. We have a content management systems. So we are tracking some analytics on the content side. And so as a PMM, we have some metrics to make sure that the content is really highly consumed by the sales reps and identify some gaps so we can improve them over time. On the people side, I think one thing which is important, but it's obvious, but making sure that you have people who are at the executive level, of course, your sponsors, but also in other sales departments, your champions. Specifically, if you are in a company where you have sales engineers. Sometimes sales engineers are the most knowledgeable people in a company about the product. Sometimes it's not product marketing, it's them. So make sure that you make them an ally in the way you're building your sales enablement program. So I think it was important here to mention. This is an example of one thing that I was left on the table at Dataiku. I found it great. It was built in 2017, so basically 5 years ago. It was just sitting on the table. But I really find I was just new at the company and realized that was probably the best sales enablement asset I've ever seen in my career, because it was very clean, very well presented, human barrier to scale, the challenge, the needs, the benefits, the providers, and how the solution maps to that. Of course, it was not anymore updated, but the format was great, and it was like a 4 pages document. One thing also important, when I was at Microsoft, between product marketers, because sometimes in large organizations you can evolve from being product to product marketer, then to a sales or to evangelist. We had what we call the cookbook, which means all the tips and hits that you will leave to the people who will transition after you in that job. So I think something to keep in mind as a best practice is start building a cookbook so that the one person that will follow you in your career, in your product marketing role, will have everything that they need to start, and that they won't fail the same way that you may fail. So something like very important. The second one is really regroup and design as a team. So what does it mean? So again, I think the thing which is important is really making sure that you don't build things on your own when you're doing a sales enablement program. You are sharing, you need to humbly share your insights, what you have gathered in the first phase with your sales, make them, ask them for feedbacks, for insights, and make sure that they are part of the program of the design teams and not just a spectator of what you are developing. So sometimes you can be in a position to be like, hey, I'm the one delivering the product value, but in fact, something which is important is like to make sure that these guys are part of the process. Something which is important is also when you're designing is really think about engagement and accountability. So delivering a roadmap, a deck is not enough. Delivering product benefit is really not enough. Think about activities like self-learning, we-learning, so like community. There are plenty of activities if you think about what Shopite can provide or other kind of platforms. There are some kind of new things that are really important. But it's not, digital is good, but it's not enough. You need to also to make sure that you have some kind of role play or engagement scenario. What I mean by that? So it means making sure that you're sitting with them during workshop, and you make them role play about how they would like to present the product benefits and the product value. Why? Because there is a metrics on the learning side, which is like people are learning on the jobs at 70%, 20% from their peers, and 10% from content. So if you bet all your strategy on content, you will fail. So you need to spend your strategy on role play and engagement scenario, making sure that they really feel engaged and they feel the experience of learning about the product. So something which was important. So, and then it's this slide, by the way, is not coming from me, but from an enablement company I work with. So I just grab the slide and steal it. And I think it's maybe complex, but it's a magic formula. It's hard to explain in a few minutes, but basically it's not just content. It's really the activities and the formats. So which means that delivering a workshop with role play is not just delivering a deck that will be consumed by an enablement platforms. And make sure that you align it with your learning objectives and you amplify it with facilitations. Facilitation can be you orchestrating that, doing some workshop in your subsidiary or during sales meeting, during sales conversations, around a product launch. Can be a sales enablement people working with you just to make sure that it's locally in Singapore, people can learn the same way that they learn in Europe or in New York. So that's something which is really important. Some advice that somebody who are really good at enablement told me that also there are new activities like podcasts, learning story, escape game that big brands are starting to use to engage their sales reps. So it may be a little bit ambitious, but think about this and playing it with the customer strategy, the customer initiatives. So my former company did one thing which is really interesting, is mixing sales rep and the customers together in an escape game to think about the new product benefits and how it can help to solve a story. So it's a way to make sure that the sales rep will learn because they will be with their customers and they will be in the room. So that was really neat. Third one is really impacting the bottom line. So this one can be easy. Don't sell features. That will be my only advice. Don't ever sell benefits. Tell a story around your product and how the product is impacting the bottom line. And also making sure that you continue engaging them on this kind of stories. But really, the sales are really focusing on commission, their bonus. They want to know that the story that you will tell them will impact their bottom line and they will get their bonus at the end of the year or the quarter. Something, maybe, sorry, it's a little bit bullish, but something that's how it happens. But the story is really important. I think that with Elliot this morning, we talked about that. So I had this same slide for significant objects. The key of success is in repetition. So but this story is like a story of a 2,000% return on investment of selling a story behind a product and not just selling a product versus what you can find by other kind of competitors. So this is really, really important story to keep in mind because you are owning the story. So once I met with somebody from a founder of a startup, and he told me and say, what you're doing for such a success, and say, I am the product, I am the marketing, I'm the one owning it. So I think that we should feel ourselves as being like being in a startup and being the founder and being representative of the product, because also it's how the salespeople are perceiving the product marketer. One key point here is that there is no one size fits all. So it's really about once you have, so this is an example of a playbook that I deliver to sales. And here it's not just about delivering it. So an SDR and a customer success and a contact exec won't have the same situation, the same use case. They won't have the same challenges as well. Some would like to have simplicity in the playbook. Some will want to, the top sales guys want to know about the strategic things, the kind of thing that you will make the difference in a really highly strategic conversations. But some will like simple things. So here I build some sales strategy deck, but at the same time for dummies guide. just one-pagers to explain in 5 questions how we can deliver the value. So something which is important is that there is no one-size-fits-all for these guys. Value success analytics, I think it's really important. Somebody told that we should capitalize on stories, on customers, on success stories once you have like enable sales and the sales win a contract. And stop here. So ask them to go on stage with you and have them tell the story of how great the story was so that they win the competition. So that's something which is important, is like sometimes the sales are the best one to enable the other sales. So if you have in your company a good sales story, celebrate it. It's an achievement. It's hard to quantify it because it won't be into the metrics, but it's something which is really important because it's about also relationship. And communications, I think we talked about that during the Cisco presentation, but always communicating about the result that you have. So 2 examples here. We start with the right side. So this is some learning analytics from an old platform that I had with consumptions. This kind of activity that you can find in any kind of learning platform so far. I'm guessing that the sales enablement platform will have the same analytics and also better. But this was an example of how successful a training program can be, so you can measure how far it can go and recalibrate if necessary. And this is an example of we put some kind of leaderboard activities, a digital and a physical one, so we celebrate success. It was Microsoft pictures with sales and sales enablement and product marketing together. That's around the product launch to celebrate the best leader in the learning program. So here, it was not us being the champion or the star. It was the sales being the stars and being celebrated as part of this program. So something really important. Last but not least, I called it expand on skill and wheels. What does it mean? It means that once you achieve it, you need to continue. So it's like the 24 hours of Le Mans. It's a never-ending journey. It means like you should go back to department leaders, make sure that you get their feedbacks, that you learn from that, so you can recalibrate and reprogram literacy programs, doing more training and coachings. In that mind, I would say always stay available for these guys. One thing important as well is like expanding to influencers and partners. That's something which is often depending how you're selling. So in the software industries where I'm working, we are selling a lot with partners. It can be partners like cloud providers, can be Snowflake or whatever. So and sometimes the content that you have built can be used elsewhere. So you need to go the extra mile with them and make sure that you have a learning program for them. So this is a typical kind of program that we have, where we start with sales engineers for product sessions, really technical product, then going to account exec, customer success, and SDR, BDRs, and then to partners and influencers. And delivering on both content and activities. And you can also apply it to customers and prospects, because sometimes you can also have workshops, universities that can take place at your customers. So you can have like a product launch taking place at your customers, so you can onboard users and new champions in the company. So enablement shouldn't stick within your organization. You can expand enablement to other kinds of outside of your organizations. That's something which is really important. And that's it for me. I'm sure.
Thank you, David. We have some questions lined up already. Yeah. Is every PMM focused on their part of enablement, or do you dedicate team members to sales enablement?
That's a good question, because I was in 2 organizations, one with dedicated sales enablement as a PMM, and one with all the team members doing sales enablement. I think when you're doing sales enablement, I think that it shouldn't be one man's jobs. It should be all PMM's jobs. So maybe it depends how you want to scale. Sometimes you want to scale. It's good to have like a guy, product marketing, be in charge of sales enablement. But it's like splitting the jobs between 2. So I'm more inclined to have like a full end-to-end responsibility on the sales enablement per product line or per division, but sometimes it's hard. So I think that the best will be to have sales enablement being not just to have one man focusing on that, but just split it into the product organization.
Awesome. Well, what are some of the must-have best practices you follow at Dataiku to ensure sales enablement is tightly bundled with product marketing function?
It's not the question here, so can you repeat the question?
The first one.
The first one, sorry.
Yep. So what are some of the must-have best practices?
I think it's really about, it's roughly what we are building so far. So it's making sure that we are building a learning path, which means that we already have a centralized content management systems. We have Guru. We centralize all the cards, all the product knowledge that we have into Guru. And so it's easy to search, easy to consume by sales. But that's good, but that's not enough. So we need to, the best practice will be to go one step further, and we are developing learning paths where we engage with content, with activity and format in one learning track, a digital one. And then we try to combine it with physical classes because it's important to combine on-site and off-site. On one slide, I mentioned blended learning, but blended learning is just that. It's a learning concept that shows how you can blend some activities together to make it successful. So don't think about only digital only or physical only as a kind of practice.
I love the next one.
Yeah, and playbook. Playbook is really, so of course.
How do you get sales to share their losses? More learning can be found there to improve, but they tend to shine the light on wins.
Yeah.
Any tips?
Yeah, it's a very good one. So what we did, it was kind of best practice from Dataiku that I've not seen before. We're working with a company called Closed. So what Closed is doing, they're interviewing our customers about the win and loss. So they spend like 1-2 hours with customers every month, every 2 months. And then we get all the learning from the interview between the customers and the independent providers. Why? Because they are more keen to share some insight on why they choose another vendor to an external person and not just the sales rep who will be who don't want to share why he failed. And so it's always good to have an extra company to do that. So Close is a good one. Sorry.
My question. Is there a cost-effective way to do that? Because for some organizations, paying for that third party is amazing information, but it costs too much. Is there a sort of like a car at the beginning version versus your?
Yeah, I think that the challenge here is like sometimes go and spend time with them. If you spend time with your sales rep, just informally, not sending them an email and say, hey, what about this loss and win-loss? Or they won't be share any kind of insight on that. Or they share with you the insight that they want you to get. But it's best to go and informally discuss with them and say, hey, what the reason? And sometimes in sales meetings, they have like win-loss feedback program. So when it's driven by the sales sponsor, the sales exec, it's easier for them to share it because they are in the group. So make sure you're part of this sales meeting session where they share about win-loss programs. And of course, one good indicator would be to go into Salesforce or any kind of CRM to see it in detail. But sometimes it's not really qualified and there are not really good data into it.
Update it. So,
yeah, I don't. But it's something which is.
How do you fix that problem?
It's an executive mandate, so which means that the sales exec need to make them part of their job to say, I want every deal to be qualified, to be structured and so on. So it's really part, at Dataiku, it's really part of the culture of the sales. They need to inform and to document the sales lead. So strangely, it's the first time that I've seen that in an organization that the documentation was well done. One thing important as well is that you can, if you have tools like Gong, Shopad, you can also view some conversations and you can observe it from an external point of view. It can be time consuming for a product marketer, but pick the one that are the most interesting one.
And maybe just to expand, try and get as much win-loss interview getting organized by the sales sales reps. We were at the first roundtables. We were talking also about it, and it's not the most popular thing to do, but there's always KPIs. So what we did is put the number of win and loss interviews into sales reps KPIs. And they started arranging the interviews during the process. So not when everything's finished and then they send an email, would you like to speak to our product marketers? No, okay. But they're doing it, already preparing for it during their process, sales process. As I said, it's a bit pushy to put it in their KPIs, but it worked for us.
It's better than taking it out of their sales benefit as compensation at the end.
Sure.
Yeah, if you do a win-loss, you get less percentage of your benefit.
Whatever works. But the thing is, after we did the first few interviews and after we had the first findings, it went really a lot more easy because they had something tangible. Before the first time that you come back to them with some findings from the win-loss, then they know why are they doing it. When you come back first time with some really good findings they can work on, then you have them hooked.
Thank you.
That's all for now. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome.